just finish up a few of the things that I know are on the exam that you might encounter. You might see a program on there that has where you have to use the mouse to grab a hold of something and do something with it. So I just want to put down the basic code for that so you remember how it kind of works. There's three parts. If you're going to use the mouse to grab stuff and do stuff with it, you have to be able to get the information when the mouse goes down. You have to keep track of where it is when you're dragging, and you have to see when the mouse goes up. And the thing is that you want to do is you want to be sure that you're dragging on the thing that you're trying to find. In this program right here, you don't have to worry about that. What it does is this particular one, draw a line. This particular one just draws a line. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything else. So it's easy to do. You put the mouse down, and you just simply, wherever the mouse drags, you just draw a little trail behind it until you let up again. And that's the easiest. That's actually one of the easiest ones to do. So basically, what you do is you have to have. Because it's going to draw a line, you can't draw a line in the regular web page. You have to draw it in a canvas. So therefore, it has to be in Canvas. So you have to have mouse canvas up here, .js. You have to have that in your include file that includes that. Okay, then what happens is once you have that there, the program is alert to whatever the mouse does. And if you have a function that's called mouse down, like that. When somebody puts the mouse down, it will jump to this function. And what it will contain is two pieces of information, what the X and the Y position of the mouse are, which is something that you might want to use, okay? In this particular program up here, I have some variables I want to keep. One is these variables. I'm going to put it right across the whole thing here. Variable. Let's say it's my x1 equals 0, comma, my y1 comma. You can use semicolons if you want. I think this thing is very generous as far as punctuation between the variables. If you're defining variables like this, my xd equals 0. My y, my xd is like underline there. No, it's the whole thing. Sorry about this. A little confused there. My xd. yd equals 0. I should mention something else too. This is bad writing, but I should mention something else as we're writing along. Sometimes if you have something like this, my x and my y, if you have two variables like that, I've had a tremendous number of students make this mistake. It's almost all over the place. They forget one of the y's. If you have two y's in a row, like my y, they forget one of the y's. They just don't think, they write my, and the y seems to be there, so they don't write it. So I've had to debug their programs, and I find out they only have this when they should have that. That probably happened like 5 times, which means it probably happens to a lot of people. So be very careful with your variables. If you name them weird things like this, be sure that all the letters are there, because it can get pretty kinky if you just don't think of a letter. It won't work, and you won't know why. And the guy that makes the mistake can't see their own mistake, so they can't see why it doesn't work. It's hard to find it. That's why I found myself debugging things that I probably didn't have to. This one here, old, drag x equals 0. Then continuing on out, it would be old, drag y equals 0. And drag flag equals 0. Drag flag is when you drag flag should be a 1. So you change it to a 1 as soon as you put the mouse down, and you leave it down until you leave the mouse up. So it stays as 1. That way you know that you're dragging. Okay, so you say function mouse down, and the first thing you do is you say, when you put the mouse down, there's no previous point that you have to worry about. You're not drawing from point A to point B. When you drop the mouse down, that is point A. That's the first point that you're going to have. So therefore, you aren't going back to draw from the old point to this one. You're just saying, I start here. So what you do is, as soon as you hit the mouse down, you set the old drag x equal to, this is mouse down, so it's mouse x1. So what I'm doing here is, I'm saying this guy right here, I'm setting this up. I'm saying, okay, put this in the original position. Okay, so this is going to go into that original position right here. It's going to go into here. And the same thing with the y, because when I put the mouse down, I know the x and y, so I put this one here, drag y equals mouse underscore y1. So at this point, what I've done is I've set the original position of the mouse into the old position that's sitting up in the old position. Then I turn on the flag. I say drag flag equals 1. It was 0 to start with. Did I put it up there anywhere? I hope I did. Yeah, there it is, 0. So 0 means you're not dragging, 1 means you are dragging. So when I go down, I know I'm about to drag, so I turn that thing on. So there it is right there. So next thing you want to do is, now that you've got the thing ready to go, what I've done is I've said, this is where I put the x where I put it down, this is the y where I put it down. And now what I want to do is I want to follow my drag, and everywhere I make a new point, I want to draw a line to that point. Okay, from every last point to every new point. So you have to have a function that receives the drag stuff. And it's mouse drag. I guess. So what you're doing is you're actually, you are now dragging the thing. And I got a bunch of stuff to put here, so I'll get as much as I can. Okay, first thing is, I want to draw a line from the old points, which is old drag blah blah blah, old y. I want to draw from that point, which is old drag x, comma, old drag y, to the new point, which is, this is drag, so it's mouse xd, comma, mouse yd. So basically what I'm doing is I'm saying, when I put the mouse down, I hit some point here. So when I'm saying draw a line from that point to this new point over here, where the mouse is right now. And once I do that, it'll draw a point from where I put down to this position. But now what I want to do is I want to put this position in the old mouse position, so the next position will draw between those 2 points. So right away, after I do that, I say, okay, make old drag x old drag x, like so, equal to mouse xd. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the current mouse position of x into the old drag position, and then old drag y comma mouse, what is it, a comma there? Mouse, yeah. Mouse, mouse yd. There it is, like so. Right this way, this is weak, here. So what I'm doing is, and this is not that, what am I doing here? Okay, so here's essentially what I'm doing now. I'm saying mouse XD goes into here, and mouse YD goes into here. So therefore, the old positions, like these old positions that now have. So what you did is, the first time you dropped down here, and you hit this position, this became old X and old Y, OX and OY. And then, when you started to drag, you went to here, it drew that line, and then it took this X and Y here, and put them back into here. So when the next point hits, it'll go from this point to that point, and then this point to that point. So in other words, I keep dropping the current point into the old position, which is not up here, it's going to be right here. It's going to be right here, drop it into the old position, then when you hit the new point, it goes to here. Then you drop this one to the old position, so this is now old, and you go to this one. And so you keep dropping it back so that you can continue the line however far you draw it. And then finally at some point, let me just finish this right here, then at some point you come to function mouse up. Mouse up. And what you do is you shut off the drag. Now I didn't use the drag flag. Equals 0. You shut it off. I should have put that right in here. I should have said, if drag flag is 1, do it. But it turns out, the way I wrote this code originally, it turned out that you don't even have to do that, because it won't even get to the drag unless you're dragging. That's the only time it comes here. The initial program I wrote said if the mouse moves, and I changed that. When it said if the mouse moves, anyway, you didn't know if it was dragging or not. You had to keep that track of that yourself. But now in the modern version of the thing, what happens is, if you come to this mouse drag position at all, then you know it's dragging. It's not just moving, because we now have a mouse move, which is a different function. So in other words, it'll go to mouse down when you press mouse down. It'll go to mouse drag when you drag the mouse. It'll go to mouse move someplace else if you're just moving the mouse, so it wouldn't hit here by accident. Originally it would have done that. And so that would take care of this. You really don't even have to do the drag flag at all. You don't even need it. It'll take care of itself. And that pretty much would, see, why would it, the only thing I can think is if you left up and then you went down again, no, it would still work. It will still work without that. So basically in this program here, you don't even need this, and you don't even need this. It'll work without it. Simply because the thing knows when it's dragging and when it's just going down. It knows the difference. So that would work out. But those are the things you kind of have to remember a little bit about. You have to just know them a little bit. Because when I ask questions, I say, is this true or false? Okay, you have to look at it and say, well, is this true or is it false? And you have to figure it out based on what you see. Did you get your project done?
Almost.
Almost?
Almost.
Oh. Okay, next thing.
Wait, my final project?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I finished that
You
one.
get that done, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Why, you got another project?
Like a homework assignment.
Oh, homework, okay. I talked about hierarchy a little bit. I just want to bring it up again one more time. I did it with a planet. I had the planet and the sun and the earth going around the planet, and there was something going around this is going around the planet. So I did it that way. I hooked these things together just to show you the basic idea of it. The essential idea of hierarchy is, if you have an object, no matter what it is, it can be any object you have, no matter what it is, and if you have another object you want to append to that, so that if you move this one around, that one will move with it. Okay? It could be a sphere, it could be anything else, no matter what it is. Supposing it is a sphere, let's call it a sphere over here. Sphere. And we'll call this thing the cube right here. If I want everywhere I move the cube, if I want the sphere to go also, you would write it like this. You'd say cube dot add sphere. And that creates the hierarchy. It says this cube has that attached to it. So whenever I move this, that goes with it. That's how it's done. It's just with a simple add, okay? And add glues these things together in hierarchical form. So if you had a cube, a sphere, and a plane over here, for example, a plane, and you wanted this to be attached to that, and that to be attached to this, you can actually do that. Then you can say sphere dot add plane. And what will happen then is, wherever the cube goes, the plane will go. Wherever the sphere goes, the plane will go. So they're all locked together in one great big happy family. Had you done this, had you said plane attached to cube, then if you move the sphere, the plane would not move. Only if this is dependent directly on it. And this is dependent directly on this. In this case right here, I said this depends on that, it's hooked onto that, and this is hooked onto this. So if you move the sphere any place, the plane's going to go with it. Had I said, if I had said this right here, hook the cube to the thing, then hook the plane to the cube, the same as I did over here, the plane and the cube. Then if I move the sphere, this plane would have moved with it. It's only because of the dependency between the sphere and the plane that these two are actually connected to each other. It's kind of logical, I mean, if you think about it. In this case right here, you have this connected to this and this connected to that. If I connected this to this and then this to that, there would be no connection here. So therefore, whatever the sphere did wouldn't affect the plane at all. So if you want that sequential thing, you have to put them in this kind of order here. If you want them all to be connected. That's kind of a simple idea, but that's one of the things. We did sound, and in the sound stuff, there are 3 stages to it. And I just wanted to draw them out so that you remember how they are related to each other. The first one is you have an audio ID. This is sort of like, it's like you have an HTML, and then you have head. Then you have, right here, you have audio. And the thing is, this line here could be down in the body. If you want it in the body, it'll still work, okay? But I put it up, I always put everything, all the includes up here, but it could be in the body. To try to explain why one or the other works and doesn't work, it's got something to do with how when the program loads, it does certain things first. Some things it will do first, and other things it won't. And if you put the things it won't do first, you got to put them in the right place. So basically, I try to keep you away from all that stuff, and I try to keep it simple. So the things that you can put in both places, that's one of them. You could also do that with the video stuff. You can put that first if you want to also. But this is I'm putting it up on top because I like the includes to be up on the top. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is you have to give this an ID. And what that ID is, that ID says that in our program, we are going to call this thing this name. So I gave it a name, My Audio. What that means is, in this HTML code, that's the name of it. That's what it's called. However, its original name was, this. Out in a file someplace was canon.mp3, like so, and then you have /audio, like so. So in other words, this is the name of it as a file. This is the name of it when it comes to the HTML. But JavaScript has to have its own name too. It doesn't accept names from down below. It has to have its own name. So what you have to do is when you finally come to this line here, script language, this is where your program begins. Usually what I do is I put this right under this to be sure I get it out of the way. In other words, I bring this audio into the script and capture it into the program so the program knows the name of it. It has to have its own name too, by the way. That's another problem. So you give it a name, you say variable, give it whatever name you want. I'm calling it sound over here. That's the name I'm giving it. Equals, and this stuff has to be written exactly like this, all lowercase. Wait a minute, is it all lowercase? No, it isn't. Dot. Yeah, these are all lowercase so far. This is the first uppercase thing right here. E for element. Capital V, Y. It's really weird. ID. That's small letters. These are big letters here. So it's EBI are all big letters. And you have to give it that name right there. Audio. And here's what it does. What that line does is this brings it from a file to the HTML, and this brings it from the HTML into the JavaScript language. So now this is a variable that's in our JavaScript language, and we can start to use it like that. This line right here, by the way, is used in a lot of programs. I don't use it very much, but I only use it when I have to, because it's kind of a weird line. But basically what you're saying is, if this is a variable in HTML, this is what we're going to call it over here. You translate it into our. It's like sending a function sends a name from the HTML up to you, and it receives it with a different letter. It's the same thing. You're sending it. My audio is a function sending this thing right here, and it's receiving it right here at this name. Okay, so that's now the name of the sound that you want to use. And if you want the sound to play, all you have to do is say sound dot play like that, and that'll play that sound. It'll make it play, and you can shut it off by saying sound dot pause like that. So that will turn the sound on, that will turn it off. Okay. There are some variations up in here with the sound. You can make it. You can put the word right in here. You can put the word loop in, for example. And what loop says is, if it's music, it'll go doo-doo-doo to the end, and then it'll stop playing it again. It does do that. Okay. And I think that's the one. Let's see. Is there anything else that we? I don't know if there's any other variations in this we've used, but that's the one that's the most important. Because people, like, if you have an explosion, you don't want it to repeat, so you wouldn't put loop in there. But if you have music, you might want it to keep going after it play again. And so that's basically the sound stuff. I might ask you a question on the sound things. WebKit. We use WebKit. We've only used it for one thing, I think. It's just for rotation. That's the only thing we used it for. It's got a lot of different things that you can use it for, but I've only used it for one. What happens is, if you have an object on the screen, a lot of people did this in their projects. They rotated stuff because it looks kind of cool. But you can actually rotate stuff. You can rotate stuff up in the function like everybody does, but it's also possible to rotate stuff right down in the code in the body. So if you have a body and you define the object, whatever it is, you can start it rotating right off the bat if you want to. So let's link in this case I think I made a video. Yeah, it was a video, but it could be an image, it could be anything. I had this video here, and whoops, I gave it a style. Position absolute, which you guys have seen 1,000 times. Position absolute, which simply means I want to now tell the thing exactly where to be. Position absolute, I put it left. I'm going to put these all in. They're not essential to what I'm doing, but just to make it complete. 200. Okay, here we go. This is where it gets weird. Minus WebKit, like so. Transform. I'm going to do a transform here. So, and we're going to rotate. Capital Y right here, that's over the y-axis, 180 degrees. 180 degrees, semicolon. Slash video. Okay, here's what this does. I have a video on screen like so, and the position's absolute, which means I've located it at 400 from this side, top 200 from this side. And then I hit this funny thing over here, and what this says, I've got to have a minus sign here by the way, and what it does is it goes to the transform and it says rotate this thing over the y-axis 180 degrees. Now the y-axis is this way right here, and 180 degrees is like that. So essentially what I did was I made the movie look backwards from left to right. That's all I did. It was very simple. So the movie is completely reversed. That's all that does, is simply reverse it down. If I moved this like 90 degrees, it would have been really freaky because it would have taken it and moved it like this and you wouldn't even see the movie. It would be completely invisible to you. Okay, the plane would be flat against you. 180 brings it that way. If I went 360, it would be back where I started from. So what the degrees are, 360 degrees you get. And that's very handy for things that you might want to rotate things around. You can rotate it at the X, Y, or Z axis, or all three. In that area where I demonstrated the rotations, there are some transforms that show you how to do it all different ways. I made a program that allowed you to drag the mouse and it flips this way and that way, whatever you want to do, so you can see all the variations of this. What I'm kind of hoping is if you're doing an exam and you have your programs available, you can just go to one of those programs and get what you need right away, because it's that same stuff. It's this stuff right here. We did a person-to-person. We did a bunch of video stuff, but one of them we did was communicating between people online. But in order to do that, we had to take a video from our webcam. If you take a webcam video, those are the magic letters. If you get a website and you want to have people able to run your programs that are going to communicate person to person, you're going to have their webcams running. You have to get what they call an SSL layer, secure socket layer. And it always costs money. I don't know what it costs. It's like, in the company I'm with, I think it's like $25 a month or something. It's quite a bit. Some companies are far cheaper than that. But basically, your basic host site will give you a host area. You can put stuff in, and in their case, it doesn't cost anything. But if you want SSL, if you want that to exist also, then you have to pay some money for it. That's the way it works. The alternative is to don't run your stuff in Chrome. Run it in Firefox, because it runs in Firefox. I'm not sure about the Mac. Does it run in your Mac on the other browser you have? Like, could you run a P2P thing?
The only thing I've tried is just the webcam stuff on Firefox.
Okay. I would stick to Firefox if I were you guys. It's you can run it in all your machines anyway, and it works out. But basically, there's a program up there on our site that's ICU, is what it is, .html. And it's the simplest possible person-to-person webcam you can possibly get. I think it's got like, if you include even the HTML lines and everything, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11. It's got 12 lines in it. And those include the HTML and the heads and all that stuff too. So it only takes, to make it happen, it only takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes 5 lines to make this actually happen. So it's quite an easy, they've rigged it up so it's very easy for us to do. I actually didn't put any includes in here because the local peer.js and getstarted.js, those two guys have the includes in them. You can pull them down from my account. Or, this is something I should tell you, by the way. This is something that you should know. I think you do at this point, but I want to be sure you understand it. If I give you an include that looks like this, script, like so, source is local peer .js script. If I give you something that looks like that, you have the choice of either to pull this down, you have to download it, you have to go to my site, show the code, select it, bring it down to your machine, copy it into Notepad, save it as localpeer.js. So you have to do that to get it into your machine if you want to do it that way. The alternative to doing that is to write this script and just leave it at my site. You say source equals quote http .works.com/localpeer.js, like that, JS, unquote, /script. This right here, you don't have to download it. It's already to go. In other words, you never have to download it. If you put this in instead of that, you don't have to download it to your machine and upload it to the other machine. You just leave it that forever. It'll always work, okay? I'm not going to change these programs. If I make any changes, I'm going to give different names to them. So these things will always be the same. It's up to you really how you want to do it. If you want to have everything securely in your own site in case my site closed down for any reason, you'd have to download it and then upload it to Alta Vista or wherever you're at. And that's it. And don't forget, in order to run anything, this is just how to keep an include in your own folder. This right here is a different thing. This is a question of if something's SSL, it's only because it's using a webcam. And if you use a webcam, they want you to. There's another thing I should tell you too. This is just an aside, but when it does voice recognition, do you ever notice you're talking to the thing, all of a sudden it doesn't listen to you anymore? It kind of loses its attention. That's because you're not SSL. If you were running that voice program through SSL from your server through SSL, then it pays attention to you a lot longer. In fact, I don't even know if it ever shuts off. It just stays on. So in other words, Chrome has gone totally to SSL. They want everybody to use it. I'm not sure why. They think it's called the secure socket layer. It's because it's more secure apparently. And they're worried about the idea that somebody will turn on your webcam and then it'll keep running after it's shut off. See, it's got a little light on it. Your webcam, most of the webcams have a little light right here. But that light doesn't really tell you if the camera's on. I mean, it does tell you when it's on, but the people who are programming it can shut that light off and leave the camera on. You wouldn't even know. And they can leave the microphone on too. So they could be monitoring your house and you never have any idea. So putting a piece of tape in front of it doesn't help because it's still listening to everything that goes on in your house. So it's a little bit scary, and I think that's why they like the SSL. It gives a little more security. That way, at least you know who's doing it because it's coming out of someplace that has a secure socket layer. You know it's somebody. You find out who it is. It isn't like the internet's just doing it to you. Anyway, that stuff is kind of what I want to be sure that you remember. These are a couple things I've touched on. The 3D graphics stuff, the whole 3D graphics world, that was the last thing we covered. And I just want to throw a couple things down for you to remember what we're doing there. Some of you have used 3D graphics in your website, so your project, so that won't be a difference for you. But if you're going to use the 3D graphics that we have, there's a couple things you have to do. One is, if you're going to use the mouse key, you have to have the mouse key up here operational. So in other words, you have to have a mouse key. Let's see, key. JS. You have to have an include that has that up here to start with. And then down here in the body, what you have to have in the body is you have to have this thing here. It's like graphics, this graphics thing, which is script. Graphics. Whoops. Source. Those graphics. .js. This right here is the line that you need to bring all the graphic stuff in for you to use. Okay, that has to be in the body right there. In case you ever run up against any programmers and they wonder why that's true, there is a really peculiar reason why it's true. If you look at graphics, if you list this out, you're going to see 4 different things. Okay, they go to 4 different parts of my account and pulls different programs in for you. If I just took those 4 things instead of going to graphics.js and just put those 4 things up above, they would work. I could put the 4 things up there. It's a big bunch of typing, see? So I try to simplify it by doing this. But when I did this, it rejected the idea of loading up above. It has something to do with what comes first. This thing had to come. It doesn't have to come first. I'm sorry. It does have to come first. But if you're loading something that loads that, which is what I'm doing, to make it simple, I say, take these 4 things and load all this other stuff. If I had just said, load these 4 things directly, I could have put it right here. It would have worked fine. But I wanted you to avoid you having to type in all those 4 things with all their doodads on them. So I changed it to this, and when doing so, I caused it to be in the body rather than up above. So I thought, well, it's not a big deal. Moving this down here is easier than if I gave you those 4 things to write, you would be very unhappy because it's a big bunch of stuff. If you look at graphics, you'll see what it is, a bunch of stuff you don't want to do. Okay, so that has to be there. And then down below it, have to be any of the objects that you're dealing with. Like, for example, in this space right here, it's script. Now remember, this one here, when you say script here, it opens and shuts. And then you write all your stuff over here. Like you got this variable, I called it my equals, I don't know, new. I'm just going to draw one of them down. Make cube. And there's a bunch of them, depending on whether you want to have videos on them or whatever they are, and what dimensions there are to it. 20 by 1, comma, 0, x, f, 0, 0, 0, 0, like so. Script, slash script. Okay. Any objects you're adding to your thing have to be added down here. This right here, this new thing right here, is something that we haven't talked about at all in this class, really. And it's as close to object language as we get. It's a nice thing to be able to do, because by having this new thing right here, I can use the same call to make many different objects, any number of these cubes. I can make all kinds of cubes. Make a red cube, a blue cube, a white cube, any kind of cubes I want, one after the other, using the same command. By doing that, if that was just a subroutine, a simple subroutine like we do with JavaScript, it would have a whole different thing, because each time you call it would do the same thing. See, this one here has the ability to send arguments, and it creates this thing which is permanent. You can actually use it. We use it up above. We'll talk about it in a second. But basically, once you create that object, you have it available to use. If you create another cube, that's there too. They're both there. If you create another cube, it's there. Everything you create is there ready to use. And then up above, we have, I think I did it in this program. I want to be sure they do everything the same. Yeah, this one's the same. So we have function render. This is the big thing right here. What render does is it allows us to draw all the objects. We can rotate them or position them. Each object knows, by that name right there, as you know from the programs we've written, you can actually locate these and position them. You can make the things keep rotating or rotate them once. For example, I can say this thing's called my dot, and I think it's called box or something like that. Maybe let's say box, cube, I think. My cube dot rotation dot y plus equals 1. What'll happen there is, because of that plus right there, is it'll start off, it'll keep rotating. Every time it hits this thing, it'll just keep rotating, which is really cool. So normally what we would say is equals 1, which means it goes into one position and it locks down in that position, okay? Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Let me take a break. I'll be back in a second. I'm losing it, gentlemen, ladies.